Hello, in this video we're going to be working with importing MIDI files into Pro Tools and then assigning virtual instruments to those files so that we can play them back. First thing we're going to need is a MIDI file. So I'm going to go to the internet and all I did here was search for MIDI files. And a bunch of websites will pop up, and I like to go to midiworld.com. And MIDI World has a lot of great information, and we're going to head right to the Files section. And then here are song titles that you can click on, and this will give you the MIDI files for these songs. So somebody has gone through each one of these songs and listened to the recordings of those songs and figured out what parts we're playing, and then they've recreated those songs with MIDI instruments and then uploaded the files. There are no copyright issues with this as long as you're using it for educational purposes or for personal use. But of course, you wouldn't want to publish this and try to make your portfolio based on something like this because you didn't actually write it. But in any case, I'm going to select a MIDI file from here, and I'm going to use Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. Now, I actually already have that file downloaded, and it's here on my desktop. And you can see it's a .mid. That's the file extension for a MIDI file. And I'm just going to drag it into Pro Tools. And you can see already it's going to create multiple tracks, even though it's just one file. And this MIDI import dialog box pops up. I do want these to go into new tracks, and I want them to be instrument tracks, not MIDI tracks. An instrument track will allow us to insert a virtual instrument so that we can play it back. I'm going to put it at the session start. I'm definitely going to import the tempo and key from the MIDI file. All that information is embedded right in the file. And I'll hit OK. And there we go. We have a bunch of grayed out tracks, and that is exactly how it's supposed to look. Now I'm going to go over here to my inserts, and if you can't see your inserts, you just need to go to your edit window view selector and check off inserts A to E. And I'm going to look through these tracks. I see there are 8 tracks, and I'm going to put a plug-in on each one of them so that I can hear what's going on. So I'm going to go to the first track here and go down to my instruments, and I'm just going to use Mini Grand. Now, I use Mini Grand a lot. If this is the first time you're using Mini Grand on your system, then you might run into this problem where the interface grays out and it says something like factory content not found. If that happens to you, all you need to do is click the Browse button, locate the Mini Grand folder in the pop-up window. It will be right there. You click on it and hit Choose. Then it will load up. But to make extra sure it works, you want to click the dot next to the title of the plugin, choose No Insert, and then put that back on. And anytime that happens with a Pro Tools, with one of the Air instruments in Pro Tools, that will solve the problem. And you only have to do it once, and that happens with Mini Grand, it happens with Vacuum, Expand, and Boom. And maybe Structure. Okay, so now let's see what this track sounds like with a piano sound. Okay, so if you're familiar with the song Billie Jean by Michael Jackson, you'll probably recognize that as the main vocal melody. So I'm going to double click on the title here, and I'm going to call this Lead Melody. And then I'm going to just move this plugin down to the next track and listen to this part. And you'll notice that when I drag this plugin from one track to the other, the track that it's on lights up and is active, and the track that it leaves is gray and inactive. And that's because you need a virtual instrument to play back this MIDI data. And so the grayed out track indicates that there's nothing to play the MIDI data through. So now let's listen to this track. So that's kind of a cool little background part. You could call it a lot of different things. I'm going to call it counter, for like a counter melody. And you would go through each of these tracks and trying to figure out, what exactly that part you think it's supposed to be. And you might not be right at first, right? You might be wrong, and then you figure out that you're wrong, and you just switch the title and switch the kind of instrument you put on it. No big deal. This is all about exploration.